This is Sybert signing in to Tiberium Wars on the map Pipeline Problems for the Tiberium Wars July 1v1 random-only tournament. That's right, everyone is going to be playing random, and we're jumping into Semi-Final A, which is going to be featuring the Orange GDI in the north. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He is Sjon. And in the south, our pink scrim player. This is an old-timer that you'll probably recognize. He's a tournament favorite to win this. It's Sh0ckTr34tment. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Sh0ckTr34tment, he's one of the guys who's pretty much always a top contender for Tib Wars tournaments, right alongside guys like Bike Rush Owns, who probably has the most tournament wins overall, but Sh0ckTr34tment is pretty much always up there in the top competitors. Sjon? I have no idea who this guy is. I have not been really paying attention to Tib Wars for quite some time. I don't know, it was like this weird thing that accidentally happened, where I just didn't cast any Tib Wars unintentionally for probably a couple of months. And there was actually a couple of people, I think it was like Aggressive Panda, who was like, hey, why'd you quit casting Tib Wars? And I was like, I didn't actually think, like, I didn't intentionally stop casting Tib Wars. So, I'm hoping to get back into it at least a little bit here. Now, maybe not for too much longer, but, you know, I wanted to cast some games before it was too late, as they say. More news on that coming later. This is Pipeline Problems. The openings, if you've played this game before, you're probably pretty familiar with this. Fast moving over with, you know, a crane, double refinery to this blue tib is pretty darn standard. As you can see, both of these guys selling off a refinery so that they get those 3 harvesters, 2 refineries on that blue tib before really working on that green tib. There has been some variance in this, but this is like the classic way to open on Pipeline Problems. Occasionally you'll see someone do something hyper aggressive. They'll be looking to kind of punish their opponent for going for the blue tib early and dropping the money on the crane, on the 3 refineries, but I feel like I've only seen that maybe once or twice in an actual competitive game, and I mean, it's usually someone like Bike Rush who's really trying to put on the aggression early on, who's really trying to make that sort of stuff happen. Even base creeping up to the high ground, and then, of course, this is Tib Wars, base creeping is much more prevalent than it is in something like Kane's Wrath. Base creeping to the expansion fields, not a big surprise, and that's kind of the way Pipeline Problems goes. I feel like about 50% of all games on Pipeline Problems are decided in this general area, where, you know, both players start base pushing towards each other. You get Juggernauts, whatever artillery, I guess it would be Devastator warships versus Juggernauts, and you tend to have a bit of a base fight right on the right side. That's how a lot of games that at least I feel like I see on this map end up going. So very, very macro-oriented right from the start for both of these guys. Seeker Tank's going to be trying to trade out against Pred Tanks, but with reinforcements, this may be enough Pred Tanks to simply push back these Seeker Tanks without too much trouble. Sh0ckTr34tment going to be using a bit of micro here, not anything super crazy, just a bit of reverse move to keep his units alive that much longer, get those extra shots off, which does end up adding up over time. It's not necessarily like the craziest micro anyone has ever seen, but it is indeed important micro to make your units that much more cost-effective and make them that much more useful. Of course, with these repair drones, these Seeker Tanks doing way better than they otherwise would have, but without real reinforcements, there's just not a whole lot on the field for Sh0ckTr34tment to deal with these tanks right over here. Now, of course, the backside of that is that he's been teching up, he's been base creeping over here, he's got a huge economic boon with the double greenfield tib that he's been harvesting, and these 2 Annihilator tripods may be enough to deal with this small group of tanks, barring any additional reinforcements that end up coming their way. The kind of thing that I'm going to be looking for is, of course, when railguns is going to get purchased, because that upgrade for those Pred Tanks makes them that much more powerful and really adds that additional punch to them. As you can see, Predator tanks not quite able to deal with Devastator warships, shock troopers, and Annihilator tripods. And this is where the game will likely be decided. Somewhere over on here, Orca is going to be coming in, trying to strike down one of the Annihilator tripods, breaking off one single Orca just to take down the husk, stop it from being captured. A very nice move there. Actually, force field generators being purchased just in time by Shock Treatment gives this that tripod a little bit of extra damage, or, you know, a little bit of extra HP, so to speak, just to be able to survive. Orcas might end up being stopped by the plasma missile batteries. It has been dropped right there. And now direct assault onto the infrastructure and the main base, kind of Sjon. He's going to have to deal with the Devastator warships. He's going to have to deal with these tripods. And right now, he's pretty much still just sitting on that Tier 1/Tier 2 as the aircraft are indeed here. But just 4 Orcas against all of this from Shock Treatment is hardly a match. Double refinery going down in the face of his opponent. Shock Treatment has no fear. He has no care in the world. And yeah, he may end up losing one of these Annihilator tripods, but Orcas, of course, are going to be notoriously bad at actually dealing with Devastator warships. And then they'll just be able to kind of rain down discs of death upon the base. If they wanted, they could back up a little bit, deal with the AA batteries, try to stay out of range of that. They are an artillery unit, so dealing with base defenses is kind of their job. And another stasis chamber going down on the front lines. Mastermind heads up to the front. Could be used to try to capture. I'm not actually sure what he's going to be capturing with it. That was actually going to be the teleport forward. I'm assuming that was for an engineer. He was supposed to be teleporting an engineer forward for the husk. I'm not exactly sure if that's exactly what he was planning or if that was just a bit of a mistake. This is a fair amount of Predator tanks, and with this support of the Orcas, they should be able to push back the ground forces, but of course, still dealing with those Devastator warships may be a bit difficult. Shock Troopers now on the front line. Of course, blink packs will allow them to take down those air units, or excuse me, what is it called? Plasma disc launchers. Will allow them to do that extra bit of damage, and that's it. Sjon not able to quite hold the line, and again, part of it does come down to those Devastator warships. The artillery in the sky not really being dealt with in any way by Sjon, and he drops down 0-1 in this best-of-5 series. Sh0ckTr34tment, a.k.a. Shock Treatment, taking that first game in just over 6 minutes, just under 7 minutes, and, of course, he's the favorite. That doesn't mean this underdog can't cause an upset, or this updog is also what, could have happened. At any rate, we're going to be jumping into game number 2, which takes us to Tournament Tower as we spawn on the left side. Our pink GDI player currently up 1-0 in this best-of-5. This is Shock Treatment. And on the right side, the orange nod. He needs to mount the comeback pretty much here and now. He doesn't want to give any more room to Shock Treatment. This is Sjon, which I will forever and always be pronouncing incorrectly. And of course, a big thank you to Master Dalk for this lovely scoreboard up here. Originally, he helped me get that working in the actual live stream client, OBS, for Red Alert 3. And then he made some modifications to the way the program actually works, so now that I can put any faction I want up there, and it's not just Red Alert 3 factions, it's any good old faction I want, which of course makes it ideal for all sorts of games. At any rate, that's a big thank you to Master Dalk for doing that. He does all sorts of esportsy things, but most people watching this probably won't know who I'm talking about, and that's fine. In fact, I'm pretty sure Master Dalk will never actually see this. That's not the point. The point is, War Factory, a couple of bikes going to be heading on out, and that's War Factory after one refinery. This is not a heavy eco build or anything like that. This is more of the focus on actually building attack bikes, which is a classic nod move. Shock Treatment, of course, is going to have to deal with that sooner or later. He's gone, it looks like, double refinery pretty much right off the bat, and I feel like I saw dots on the minimap. Maybe I'm just going crazy. He's actually going to be calling in the Bloodhounds. Those were indeed transports going to be called away. And now both of these guys going for harassment openings. But I feel like Pitbull's APCs is maybe a little bit stronger of an opening. One Harvester now down. A second one is going to be going down across the map as the first GDI Harvester gets eliminated. And shock treatment could be in a very quickly in a not very good situation. There's still at least one Harvester out here. A second one right there depositing some Tiberium, and Scorpion tanks coming out will be able to help deal with these forces. But as of right now, everything is still alive for shock treatment, and both of these Scorpion tanks are going to be eliminated relatively soon. One Pitbull down, the second one is going to survive at least for now, which still gives shock treatment some reign and some power over here. Bike's going to be Harvester hunting continually as they were looking for the targets on the high ground. Watchtower going to be coming down, and of course with that paper armor, the Bikes aren't quite going to be able to deal with that single Watchtower. Nice control by Sjon, only really leaving the one Bike that pretty much was already taking a bit of damage. Just decided to sack that one, save the other ones, and shock treatment putting a fair amount of pressure out on Sjon. Is going to be able to lay some mines. A bit unfortunate for Sjon, not really paying attention to his Harvesters. Will end up just running directly over those mines, which were planted pretty much in his face. Two more Scorpion tanks coming out, may be able to just deal with those last couple of Bloodhounds as they remain there. This Harvester taking some pretty hefty damage, but no stealth detection as both of the Pitbulls are going down. Those last APCs not able to actually do all that much. The Harvester survives for both sides. Shock treatment and Sjon going to be able to keep their units alive, at least for now. Of course, these Harvesters may end up driving over the mines and getting eliminated that way. There's still a couple of pockets of mines. Tournament Tower, most likely going to be coming down to some sort of engagement that happens in the middle of the map, but some very nice early aggression from both players, selling off one of the refineries. Sjon going to be looking for those extra bit of resources, that extra bit of credits to add to his army. And of course, both Tib Spikes cranking away at 25 cred a second could become important if this game ends up going a bit longer. If we end up seeing, you know, no Tiberium on the map, suddenly those Tib Spikes become a lot more. They're a lot bigger part of your income, at least. That's probably the best way to put it. They're a larger percentage. Just because there's mines. Oh, whoa! Calm down. That's Party Town over there. That was a sick dubstep beat. If someone wants to remix that into a song, I would probably not pay money for it, but it would fill my heart with joy. So, you know what? That's what you get. You get joy. Rifleman squads and the APC going to be looking for a bit of fun. The Engineer ejects on and gets absolutely crushed by that Scorpion tank. Just absolutely run over. As this Harvester, I mean, I get that there's mines, and he's scared, he's worried, he's got a family at home. He needs to get back to work, though. This is not some sort of... I was going to make a socialist joke there, but probably shouldn't. Just, you know, no real reason to. At any rate, yeah, just get back to work, Harvester. You got a job to do. Don't play it off like you're not there. Just because you're stealth doesn't mean you're totally invisible. As looks like two Rifleman squads in the north, just going to be hanging out for a little bit of potential scouting later on. Wait, is this double? Yeah, that's actually two APCs with engineers. I'm not actually sure where the second one is. I'm pretty sure there's two. Maybe I'm straight tripping. No, there's one in the south. This is like some Bike Rush level stuff as shock treatment just splitting off a lot of APC engineers. I feel like there's some other players who are kind of known for that as well, just being really annoying with APC engineer and trying to just sneakily gain that advantage. Of course, grabbing an MCV, which I guess was actually just sold off, could indeed be powerful. Gee, I hope I didn't actually miss it getting captured and sold off. I love watching that stuff. And these sneaky fellows with all of their APCs and engineers. Sniper teams being called in for shock treatment as well. Of course, Black Hand Squad is going to help deal with the tower in the middle. And shock treatment needs to make sure that he gets something with this engineer. He can't keep investing in things forever. Goodbye, War Factory, as the MCV pops out moments before, and that MCV would have been completely gone from the control of Sjon. So a bit unfortunate. He most likely did get his MCV capture, and I ended up missing it, as he is just going pretty heavy into the infantry, which would be pretty good as long as the Predator tanks don't actually run anything over, because Predator tanks crushing stuff makes it a bit more difficult to actually stay alive. just generally how that works. Sniper team's going to be moving on forward. They could be taking pot shots at the Black Hand squads or trying to just clear away the Rifleman squads, but that's a lot of Rifleman squads to clear away. They're going to be able to eliminate quite a few of them before... Oh, never mind. Stealth field goes down from Sjon. He's just going to be able to clean that up really quite easily. Predator tanks, of course, want to go for the crush if they can. The split's not fantastic. I'm pretty sure he just bashed the whatever hotkey it is, which auto splits, so not necessarily the most careful of splitting that one Predator tank. He's going to town. He is on a road rampage as mines get dropped, and a couple more Predator tanks end up going down. Railguns finishing up just in time to come crashing through the rest of the infrastructure for Sjon, as he did spend a fair amount of money rebuilding, or a fair amount of time even, rebuilding that MCB, and then immediately lost the War Factory, forcing him to drop even more credits, trying to rebuild and just reconstruct what he ended up losing. Unfortunately for Sh0ckTr34tment, he may not actually have enough to finish things off just right now. He's going to be pretty darn close, but if those rocket squads are allowed to just go to town forever, they will eventually clean up the Predator tanks, but a couple of crushes could very well just finish that off as more and more Predator tanks going to be rolling in, and Sjon has been defeated. Sh0ckTr34tment going up 0-2-0 against Sjon. And I'm still unsure of how to pronounce that guy's name. Sh0ckTr34tment takes another win, and coming in, looking like a pretty strong contender for this series. Pretty strong contender for the tournament. Sjon has one final set of opportunities. He needs to win those 3 games in a row. He needs to mount the comeback right here, right now. It doesn't get any worse than this. Down 0-2 in a best-of-5. His tournament life is on the line. Can he do it? Let's find out in game number 3. And game number 3 takes us to Tournament Arena, the flattest map to ever exist. Spawning in the north as the Pink Nod. We do indeed have the man who's up 2-0. This is Sh0ckTr34tment. And in the bottom right-hand corner, the yellow Scrin going for that fast expand because it's Tiberium Wars. This is Sjon. He needs your cheers. He needs your support as he is going to be heading in here against the odds. Against the odds for sure. By the way, you can tell that this is live because Sh0ckTr34tment's name has significantly less numbers than it normally would be. If I was doing everything in post, there would be more numbers in his name. Ah, yes. Sjon going for the classic deny the expansion, which is where you use disintegrators to quickly kill off whatever building they're kind of deploying down there. In this particular case, we do have a very different sort of strategy to get down to the blue Tiberium. It involves simply base creeping, at least down to the green, and then possibly expanding from there. While this is more the classic way to open on this map, Tournament Arena, it's not that far of a drive to just get your outpost or emissary or whatever else they are called over to that blue Tib, and then to just, drop down your first couple of refineries there. This is indeed from the semifinal A of the Tib Wars random-only tournament. First Harvester, I'm guessing, going to be popping on out. Should be refineries coming down sooner or later for Sh0ckTr34tment. Otherwise, he's going to be in a bit of trouble as far as how far that Harvester has to drive. Oh, no, that's an engineer cap over here. Calling in the carry-all. Just going to be utilizing that to grab one of those refineries. How very annoying for Sjon to deal with. Fortunately, this is Tib Wars, and that blue Tiberium is worth more than enough to pay for those refineries, so he doesn't have to worry about that right now. Of course, I think the air tower already got sold off. Yeah, so no more engineer shenanigans going to be coming out from Sh0ckTr34tment. He's, of course, got the Buzzer Squad just there to be a bit annoying. The sell-off of that Operations Center, granting that Flame Squad, and going to be flaming down that first Tib spike. First refinery going to be down in the south, but Secret Tanks going to be showing up for the harass. The thing is, can these Secret Tanks actually really stand against the double Scorpion tank production of Sh0ckTr34tment? Of course, initially they may be able to overwhelm a couple of Scorpion tanks, maybe even get a Harvester kill, but in the bigger picture, Sh0ckTr34tment will most likely be able to win out over time. Going to be microing back a couple of the weaker Scorpion tanks just to do that extra bit of damage. And of course, it's going to be forcing Sjon to make the decision. Does he try to go for the harvesters and sack a lot of his units, or does he just keep his focus on killing Scorpion Tank after Scorpion Tank? Of course, Scorpion Tank's not worth as much in the long run, but if he's able to kill enough of them, he could be able to just then focus on the harvesters. And these Scorpion Tanks almost getting like one-shotted by the sheer number of Seeker Tanks which are here on the field, as another Scorpion Tank going to be getting eliminated. Just solid reinforcements apparently coming out from Sjon. Has he cut off the path now, though? It seems like he's pretty much curbed this attack. There's not a whole lot else heading out across the map for him. Just a couple more Seeker Tanks now going to be coming out. But if he doesn't do some serious damage soon, he's going to find himself in an even worse situation. He is up against the ropes. He's down 0-2 in a best-of-5, and it all comes down to this game to start the comeback. He has to win 3 games in a row, essentially clean sweeping Sh0ckTr34tment from this point forward, but it has to be now, it has to be here, as he goes for the Harvester, not quite able to kill it off just yet. Another volley should be able to finish it off as the Seeker Tanks fire and level that Harvester, taking it down. Scorpion Tanks firing round after round, trying to thin the numbers, but more reinforcements heading across the map, joining up with their Seeker Tank brothers. And this angle of attack is actually turning out to be pretty good for Sjon, as the reinforcements for Sh0ckTr34tment not able to make it work, not able to make it happen, and Sh0ckTr34tment will indeed drop that game. Sjon has earned himself that little bit of wiggle room, meaning he gets to go on to the next game, and he has to win that and the final game to take this series. Sh0ckTr34tment has shown in the first 2 games he is not to be trifled with, but he is not immortal. He does bleed, and that is what Sjon needs. Can this momentum actually carry him forward, though? Don't want to get too cocky, as we're going to be heading into game number 4, which takes us to Tournament Dust Bowl. Spawning in the north, the man who leads this series, but currently only up 1 game. This is Sh0ckTr34tment. Immediately, the outpost going to be coming out. In the south, the Scrin, who's orange. Can he do it? This is Sjon. He's looking to prove himself today. He is looking to make this happen. And boy, oh boy, he is going to grab this Tib Spike if it's pretty much the last thing he does. Sh0ckTr34tment, on the other hand, this emissary is what we want to keep our eyes on. I guess I've said the wrong thing twice now. First Scrin, then Nod Surveyor. I guess it's technically the correct term, but no one actually cares. Engineer going to be coming up. Tib Spike to be captured, and yep. I mean, those buzzers are just there to secure that Tib Spike, just to make sure that the Engineer doesn't get sniped early on, because that is quite the loss once you've invested that 500 credits. I don't know that it's game losing or anything like that. I'm sure some of the more dramatic players would probably say that it is, but there are lots of games which are decided by certainly more than 500 credits. Surveyor going to be sneaking on by, and the nice deployment range, so this is going to be pretty much out of vision range of any normal units which are around this expansion. Now, what he decides to place here is going to be quite interesting. As you've probably noticed by now, and which Sjon should be noticing as well, is he's like, so you've got a lot of refineries. Yeah, I get that. Economy, good thing to have. Why don't you have any production facilities? Units are usually a thing that you would want to win a game. And by that token, he may be starting to put things together that obviously something sneaky is happened. Does he necessarily know exactly what it is right at this moment? Probably not, but very soon he will, as just out of range of that vision is indeed that War Factory. Sjon is going to be very upset in just a couple of moments, as he is going to have a nasty surprise waiting for him in the form of Predator tanks, and now it's double War Factory. It is on. This is most likely in vision, and Sjon right now is like, oh, I have a lot of Harvesters, which generally means that they're bad at attacking. And my opponent now suddenly has very good attacking units right on my doorstep, and I'm sure you all know exactly what this means. Predator tanks are pretty much the best main battle tank, and now Sjon has to deal with double War Factory production of them on his doorstep. Nerve Center going down. These first couple of Seeker tanks will be able to mount some sort of a defense, but don't expect them to work miracles as a third War Factory gets plopped down. I'm not actually sure he can afford to produce off all 3 of these. He does have some pretty good income, but I'm not sure if it's enough to constantly produce on these. Photon Cannon to hold the line. Sjon, this is what he needs, Devourer tanks, to try to survive this, but he's just got a couple out right now. They're not in the overwhelming numbers that the Pred tanks are, and the first couple are going to be getting sniped basically instantaneously, as Sjon has essentially no units to stand against the tide of the impending Predator tanks. And like that, Shock Treatment makes it into the finals of yet another tournament. Who will greet him on the other side? Sjon has proven he can't quite make it just yet. Maybe in the future we'll see him in the finals, potentially against Shock Treatment, potentially against someone else. And that's of course the storyline in the long term for Sjon. This time he won't quite make it in the Tib Wars 1v1 random only tournament for July 2015. There's always next time, but for Shock Treatment, this is where he could again make a name for himself, claim an accolade, claim a first place prize. But we still have to find out who is going to be joining him in the finals. To do that, we'll be taking a look at Semifinal B. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is Sybert, signing out.